How similar are successful sport coaches and excellent CEOs? What are, if any, common traits that we can find between them? I argue that there must be a relationship in the way they behave as leaders of their teams or organizations and how they act and manage the pressure of always pushing for more. How do they motivate and lead their people to keep winning and keep improving when they are already at the top? What makes them better when they are already the best? The whole purpose of this research is to expose what common traits both of them share and whether athletic ability provides an advantage. One trait that seems very interesting is the relationship between coaches of big American sports and CEOs to being former athletes. Does being a competitive athlete at some point in their lives cause them to develop some behaviors like self-discipline and work ethic that help them to become more successful as coaches or CEOs? I will be examining some of these traits through the lens of the Big Five personality dimensions. Examples of such traits include adaptability, leadership styles, consistency, innovation, communication skills, and even passion. This is going to be the Big Five explained by me. Before I do that, do you know that trait theories of personality have attempted to find how many different personality traits exist? Some research has suggested many possible traits. Gordon Allport proposed that there are around 4,000 words that can be used to describe personality. Others, like Raymond Cattell, came up with just 16. The Big Five personality traits, also known as the five-factor model, is a widely examined theory of five broad dimensions used by some psychologists to describe the human personality and psyche. The first main type of personality traits that we have, according to the Big Five, is extroversion, which is characterized by excitability and the ability to socialize. Extroverted people tend to gain energy in social situations. They also have the tendency to seek stimulation in the company of others. High extraversion is often perceived as attention-seeking and domineering. Low extraversion causes a reserved, reflective personality, which can be perceived as aloof or self-absorbed. The second main type of personality trait is openness. People with this trait are described to be more creative and adventurous. High openness can be perceived as unpredictability or lack of focus. Moreover, individuals with high openness are said to pursue self-actualization, specifically by seeking out intense euphoric experiences, such as skydiving, living abroad, gambling, surfing, etc. Conversely, those with low openness seek to gain fulfillment through perseverance and are characterized as pragmatic and data-driven, sometimes even perceived to be dogmatic and closed-minded. The next main type of personality trait is neuroticism, a trait categorized by sadness and emotional instability. People with this trait tend to show a lot of anxiety, irritability, and they are mostly unable to deal with their emotions. A high need for stability can be seen as uninspiring and unconcerned. Main type of personality number 4 is agreeableness, consisting of qualities such as trust, kindness, and many other pro-social behaviors. A tendency to be compassionate and cooperative rather than suspicious and antagonist towards others. It is also a measure of one's trusting and helpful nature, and whether a person is generally well-tempered or not. High agreeableness is often seen as naive or submissive. Low agreeableness personalities are often competitive or challenging people, which can be seen as argumentative or untrustworthy. The last main type of these personality traits is conscientiousness, which is more about reflection and self-awareness. People with this specific trait tend to control their impulses and work more based on goals and expectations they need to meet. This trait is also about the tendency to be organized and dependable, They will show self-discipline, act dutifully, and will aim for achievement. They will also prefer plan rather than spontaneous behavior. People high on conscientiousness are often perceived as stubborn and obsessive. People low on conscientiousness are flexible and spontaneous, but can be perceived as sloppy and unreliable. Because of the several studies that have been done on the personality traits and what the motivations of the many different CEOs and coaches are, we can say that in today's world, with big companies leading the economy of the countries and influencing societies, there is this need to know more about the people who are in charge of the success of these organizations. On the other hand, we can also say that sports play a big part in society these days, especially sports like soccer and football, the first one being the most popular sport around the world. According to International Federation of Football Association, during the 2014 World Cup in Brazil, an estimate of 280 million people watched the different matches along the event. Before I can give you the conclusions of my research, let's look at a few specific examples of people I use in my research. In 2012, there was a case study conducted by the Harvard Business School to research and analyze top-level leadership. It would have been easy to focus on a CEO from the financial world, but instead they decided to take a look at the life of Sir Alex Ferguson, one of the most successful coaches of all time. But what can a soccer coach know about business leadership? Well, quite a lot, according to Mike Carson, who has spent a lot of time interviewing successful soccer coaches, including Ferguson. Carson also talks about how people think that being a coach at the top level is just about buying and selling players, but that's just part of it. Professor Anita Elvers had the unique opportunity to examine Ferguson's management methods. Along with Ferguson himself, they collaborated in the analysis of his successful methods. The study goes over 8 leadership lessons that captures Ferguson's approach. The first lesson was about starting with a foundation. When he arrived at Manchester United Football Club, he saw that only one player on the first team was under the age of 24 years old. He went against the idea that players older than 24 will not make a strong team. However, he focused on developing young players, not only as soccer players, but also as persons, so that they could go anywhere in life. He gave young people a chance, which according to him created loyalty in his players, because once they knew that he was taking risks for them, they will accept his ways. The second lesson was about daring to rebuild his team. Even in times of great success, Ferguson worked to rebuild his team. During his long career, Ferguson managed to form 5 different league-winning squads. For him to be able to do this, he had to sell players, including the ones that he had some sort of personal attachment. He always planned ahead. He visualized the team 3 or 4 years ahead and made decisions accordingly. Lesson number 3 was about setting high standards and holding everyone to them. Ferguson was passionate about creating values in his players. More than giving them technical and tactical skills concerning to football, he always looked for ways to inspire them to strive to do better and to never give up no matter the circumstances. This intense desire to win in Ferguson was in part from his own experiences as a player. In the study, Ferguson explains how the adversity gave him a sense of determination that shaped his life around never giving up, and he looked for the same attitude in his players. Ferguson's next lesson was about never giving control. He explains how you can't lose control of your team, especially if you're dealing with top professionals who are mostly millionaires. He responded forcefully when players violated the standards, but for him it was also important to respond quickly before situations got out of hands. Lesson number 5 was about matching the message to the moment. When it came to communication with his players, he would always spend some time trying to use the right words for the moment. He tried not to criticize his players, but to encourage them instead. Lesson number 6 goes over how Sir Alex prepared his team to win and he expected nothing else from them. He will prepare for any possible scenario, and if things weren't going his way, he will take the risk and push for the win. Lesson number 7 was about relying in the power of observation. He will delegate training sessions to his assistant coaches, and he will just watch the trainings. For Ferguson, this allowed him to better evaluate the players and their performances. To conclude with Ferguson's case study, we have lesson number 8 that talks about never stop adapting. During his 25 years at Manchester United, he managed to stay at the top by adapting himself and his team to the constantly changing football world. He explains how you can control change by accepting it. Now that we have talked about Sir Alex Ferguson, I will take you to some of the personality characteristics of Steve Jobs. According to Farouk Roudan in his article, The 7 Personality Traits That Made Steve Jobs the Person We Know Today, Steve wasn't an ordinary person. He had a combination of personality traits that made him move forward. The personality traits described by Roudan talk about how he had the power to imagine the products that he wanted to create. He also had extreme perseverance and confidence. He really believed in himself and his capacity to accomplish what he wanted. In addition, Jobs showed extreme passion and a rebellious nature. He wouldn't follow the rules. He will always take the risks. Finally, Rodin describes Jobs as being insanely ambitious and bossy. Steve wanted to change the world and leave a mark on it, and he will tell people what to do in order to create the products that were in his mind. With this information, we can go back to the Big Five and talk about some of the personality traits that we can find in both CEOs and coaches. The first 2 traits I have found in common are extroversion and openness. That ability to transfer important information in a clear way while dealing with different types of people can be crucial to the success of an organization or team. Carmine Gallo, in his 2 articles, What the Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz Taught Me About Communication and Success, and A Starbucks CEO Lesson in Communication Skills, he explains how Schultz talked about being an inspiring communicator to the success behind Starbucks. For Schultz, it's not just about the business, it's about the human connections behind it. Right here is when openness comes into play. People who score high in this trait are passionate people. You cannot inspire unless you're inspired yourself. Also, people with the openness trait are people who like to take risks and try new things. They're also the kind of people that will think outside the box. Now with conscientiousness, things change a little. People that are high on this specific trait are people that show discipline and aim for achievement, just like Steve Jobs or Sir Alex Ferguson. People with this trait are also considered stubborn and obsessive. There is a fine line between success and complete downfall with the last 2 aspects of this trait. But again, great coaches and CEOs manage to deal with them. According to Walt Disney president Ed Catmull, Steve Jobs was as stubborn as someone could get. He talks how Jobs told him that his method to deal with people that disagree with him was to just explain things to them until they understand. On the other hand, we can say that Sir Alex was also stubborn with his desire for winning and using young players in his team. Furthermore, we have agreeableness. There seems to be a similarity between coaches and CEOs and being low on the agreeableness trait, which explains the competitive personalities and drives to always look for new challenges. Finally, we get into neuroticism. Most of the CEOs and coaches seem to get really low score in this specific trait. Most of them are always able to manage their emotions and they don't allow their impulses to control them. However, we can argue that sometimes, especially with coaches, when things are not going quite well in a specific game or match, well, they can show a little of that emotional side, but we can also call it passion. Research has shown that there are many personality traits in which both CEOs and coaches are similar, but at the same time, there are some different behaviors that will change from person to person, mostly affected by the different situations and life experiences that each of these individuals went through during their life. Moreover, a survey by Fortune magazine of individuals at the executive vice president level or above indicated that 95% of those corporate executives participated in sports during high school. Research also shows that some of the most successful sport coaches used to be professional players themselves. Coaches like Ferguson or Pep Guardiola from Barcelona of Spain have talked a lot about how being a player shaped their careers in becoming successful coaches. Even though there are excellent CEOs and coaches that have never played any competitive sport along their lives, we can say that the ones that were involved in such activities surely benefit from it. And that was it, guys. I hope you like it. Thanks a lot for watching, and thanks a lot to my girlfriend who helped me with all the artwork in this video. Bye.